Senator Graham.
Thank you. The idea of Joe Lieberman introducing you is a risky proposition, but we'll see how that turns out. Bottom line, do you agree with the following statement? The only reason 3,000 Americans died on 9/11 is that the radical Islamists who attacked us could not find a way to kill more of us?
That's probably true.
If they could, they would.
That's my guess.
Yeah, I don't think it's a guess. I think it's a fact. Do you think ISIL represents a threat to our homeland?
I do. I do.
Well, they say they want to attack us. There's no reason to believe they're kidding, right?
I agree.
The head of ISIL was in Camp Bucca, and he said, "I'll see you in New York," when he was released.
Right.
So everything they've said they would do, they've done. And one of the things they want to do is hit us. So I couldn't agree more with Senator Kane about a regional buy-in. If you don't get that, the structural problems really don't change. But it's just not about the region. The reason I'm worried about ISIL is because I think they want to hit us. They've got the best platform I've seen since 9/11 in Syria and Iraq to attack the United States. They hold large territory, they're rich, they have a lot of crazy people under their control, and they mean it when they say they want to hit us, and I want to make sure they don't. Do you think al-Nusra wants to hit us?
I do.
They recruited a guy from Florida who was a suicide bomber, I think, in Syria. He came back to come to Florida before he actually became a suicide bomber. They're trying to hit us too. Do you think AQAP wants to hit us?
Very definitely.
Very definitely. They're the people that hit us in Paris. Do you think the Iranians have to believe that a military option's on the table during these nuclear negotiations?
Absolutely.
And if they don't, we're making a huge mistake. Right?
Absolutely.
Do you think the Russians are being provocative at a time when the world is already in chaos?
Yes.
Do you think that a cyber Pearl Harbor is a potential threat we face?
Absolutely.
And we're not ready for it?
I agree with that also.
Do you think China is intimidating their neighbors?
Certainly trying to.
Can you tell me, in light of all this, why in the hell would the Congress be devastating the military budget? Can you explain that to me? Because
no,
I can't explain it to myself.
No, I can't. I'm as I long-standing, I'm against sequester.
Yeah. And I left out a bunch of threats because I just have 5 minutes. Canada's in good shape, by the way, so we appreciate Canada being a good neighbor. In 2017, the plan on the table now is to have 1,000 troops left in Afghanistan, Kabul-based. Do you agree with me, given the conditions that exist in the region, the likelihood of a reemergence of al-Qaeda and other terrorist groups along the Pakistan-Afghan border, we would be wise to have troops outside of Kabul?
That is not the plan now, Senator.
Can you please tell me why I am wrong? It is the plan to go down to 1,000 by 2017. They increased the number of troops in 2015, but it is the plan, and if you're going to be Secretary of Defense, you need to understand the plan. The plan is to go to 1,000. I think that is beyond unwise. That will destroy our ability to see, hear, and listen to what I think is a reemerging threat along the Afghan-Pakistan border. So if I'm wrong about the plan, please correct me. This is something you can go home and check out for yourself.
I think you're correct about the plan.
Yeah, that plan needs to change. If it doesn't, we're incredibly stupid as a nation. I want to withdraw from Afghanistan responsibly. I want lines of defenses over there so they don't come here. Doesn't that make sense?
It does make sense.
I am glad Afghans are living longer. I am glad that Afghan girls are going to school. I am proud of what we've accomplished. But I'm worried about Americans living longer. And the reason I want to continue to invest in Afghanistan, the reason I want to deal with ISIL, al-Nusra, and all the other groups is because they're trying to hit us. Do you agree that the only way you can deter radical Islam, you can't deter it, you have to prevent the attack before it occurs?
So I can't give a simple answer to that.
Well, they don't mind dying.
You need to prevent. I think that a comprehensive counterterrorism strategy begins foremost with defenses, but has other dimensions as well in terms of removing the conditions that create safe havens and some of the ability for recruiting of terrorists. So it's a complex issue, but protecting ourselves needs to come first.
And I will close with this. To me, it's not complex. The only way you can keep them from coming back here to America is to stay over there, disrupt their operations, keep them on the run, do not let them gather strength, make them poor, on the run, and less entrenched. I'll end with this thought. Syria. How in the world are we going to dislodge ISIL from Syria without a ground component? And I agree with Senator King that that ground component has to be regionally based. We just come back from the region. People want to go in. Saudi Arabia said you could have our army. The Emir of Qatar said we'll pay for the war, but you got to deal with Assad. How can we train up a free Syrian army or send any other force into Syria if we don't first deal with the Assad air threat? How in the world could you train somebody to go fight ISIL and then one day they turn on Assad and not expect him to kill them before they get the capacity to come after him one day? How does this work without dealing with Assad?
Senator, let me say something about that. It's a very important question. The situation in Syria is, as you indicate, more than a problem of ISIS. It's a problem of the Assad regime as well. And the forces that we're supporting there have first and foremost the job, as we've discussed here this morning, of defeating ISIL. But I believe that they also need to be creating the conditions for the removal of Assad. That's a much more complex task. I understand that. I'm not trying to oversimplify it, but I think that's got to be at the end of the road. And if that's what you're pointing to, I completely agree with you.